From pulling someone's location out of a single photo, to mapping out an entire company's servers and weak points, reconnaissance is the first step a hacker takes before launching any attack. It basically means gathering as much information about a target as possible, whether that's a whole company, a single person, or even just one device. That's why in this video, we'll take a look at the two main types of reconnaissance, the exact tools and techniques behind each, and how hackers stay completely invisible while doing it. So let's get started.
Disclaimer.
This video is for cybersecurity enthusiasts and is for educational or awareness purposes only. It does not provide step-by-step instructions on how to perform attacks, but rather explains the techniques behind how reconnaissance works. Black hat hacking is highly discouraged and can result in serious legal consequences.
Chapter number 1, Passive Reconnaissance.
Okay, so starting with the basics, imagine you're a spy who needs to get inside a diplomat's home to steal some national secrets. To figure out when the diplomat leaves his home or heads off on a vacation with his family, you walk up to the diplomat's neighbor one day and try to social engineer him into giving you some basic information you may need. But there's a problem. You see, by directly engaging with someone close to the diplomat, you just became a loose end, as that neighbor could casually mention your little conversation to the diplomat one day. This is where passive reconnaissance comes into play. Passive reconnaissance is basically the art of gathering information about a target without ever touching or engaging with them. So instead of walking up to the neighbor and trying to social engineer him, what you can do is sit at a cafe across the street for days, note down when the diplomat leaves, when the car comes back, and which windows are always open. This way the diplomat has no idea any of this is happening, and that's basically the whole point of passive reconnaissance. You can't defend against something you can't see. Now as hackers, we don't have a cafe across the street, but we do have something far better, which is called the internet. You see, every post or photo, and every public record or leaked document, is just sitting out there waiting for us to see, and piece it all together. So for example, if we're looking to find information about a person, we can use something called Google Dorking, which is where you take one small detail about someone, like their full name, email address or phone number, and use a special search operator like file type, to dig up files and documents containing that exact detail. So for instance, if we want to pull up files tied to a specific name or email, we can write it in double quotes like this, and then specify all the types of files we're looking for. This can be incredibly revealing, as Google might turn up things like court records, resumes, or other official documents that were never meant to be exposed. Apart from this, you can also use other search operators like in text or in URL to narrow down web pages containing a specific name or email address. And if you're interested in learning more, I'd highly recommend exploring Google Dorking on your own. Then we have social media intelligence, which basically involves using a person's social media accounts to gather various types of information about them, like where they work, where they went to school, the people that are closest to them, or even the small details in their photos that quietly give away where they live. This type of information is also important when we're profiling employees of a specific company, but more on that later. Next up we have identity and account discovery. This is where a single identifier, like a username and email or even just a single photo, can be used to uncover every account and online presence tied to a person. So for example, we can use a tool like instantusername.com, which takes a single username and surfaces every account tied to it across the internet, or another one called EPOS, which takes an email and reveals all the accounts linked to it, or even pulls up a person's Google Maps reviews, which quietly exposes the places they've been. There are also tools like PimEyes or FaceCheck.id, which use facial recognition to match a single photo against a massive database of faces across the internet, and this is exactly why being careful about what you post and where is your best defense. Finally, we have data breach and leak analysis, which is where all the data that's leaked from past security breaches, like usernames, old passwords, and personal details, ends up floating around on public breach checking sites or for sale on dark web marketplaces, and when the leaked data is from government sites, the damage goes far beyond a few leaked credentials. Now if we're looking to find information on a company or an organization, while we can use the same techniques I just mentioned, like Google Dorking to find internal documents, login portals, or files accidentally left public related to a company, you can also use tools like Hunter.io or LinkedIn to map out employees working in a company, or the Wayback Machine to pull up old versions of a site that don't exist anymore. We can also use tools like Shodan to find a company's exposed servers or devices facing the internet, and CRT.sh to uncover subdomains they forgot were even public. Finally, a tool like Whois lets you look up who registered a company's domain and when, while something like the Harvester can automatically pull employee names and subdomains from dozens of public sources all at once. But here's the thing, passive recon can only get you so far, because sooner or later, you'll have to stop being a ghost and actually touch the target, but the moment you do, everything changes.
Chapter number 2, Active Reconnaissance.
Okay, so now that we know what passive recon is and how it lets us gather everything we need while staying invisible, let's look at the second type of reconnaissance called active reconnaissance. Active reconnaissance is when we stop watching from a distance and start directly engaging with the target. So this could mean socially engineering an employee into handing over information they shouldn't, or scanning a company's server with a tool like Nmap, to check out which ports are open and what services are running on them. But there's a problem. You see, by socially engineering someone in the real world, there's now a person who's seen your face, or by scanning a server with Nmap, your IP address gets logged right in a target's system. So how can we engage a target during active reconnaissance without leaving ourselves exposed? Well, that's where the sponsor of this video, Kasm Workspaces, comes into play. Kasm Workspaces is basically a platform that lets us stream a completely isolated system right from our browser, by either paying for their cloud personal plan, where we just create an account and start using it instantly, or by hosting their free community edition ourselves, where we can take any spare computer with decent specs, and turn it into a private Kasm server with just a few simple commands. The reason why it's specifically important to what we're doing is because instead of performing reconnaissance from our own computer, where our real IP and device fingerprint are exposed, Kasm lets us do it from a disposable environment that's completely separate from our real machine, and because it can also route all of its traffic through a VPN gateway we control, the target sees that gateway's IP instead of ours. They've also rolled out a native OpenZD support in their latest 1.19 release, which lets us lock a session down so it can only reach the specific services we've allowed, and this can be really helpful when we want to keep a session tightly contained, or stop it from quietly reaching somewhere we didn't approve. Finally, Kasm even comes with a whole registry of ready-made workspaces we may need, from everything like Parrot OS to dedicated OSINT setups, so we don't waste any time configuring anything ourselves, and if you're interested in learning more, you can check them out using the link in the description. Okay, so now that we've got a safe way to engage our target without exposing ourselves, let's look at our first active reconnaissance technique called network and host reconnaissance. Network and host reconnaissance basically means using a tool like Nmap to scan a target's network or any single device on it, and check which machines are online, what operating systems they are running, or what ports are open on them. The reason this is particularly useful is because every open port is basically an open door into a system, and if that open door is running something called a vulnerable service, it could be all an attacker needs to get in. Then we have web-based reconnaissance, which basically means digging into a target's actual website or web application, to uncover hidden pages and directories that aren't linked anywhere, or figure out what technologies the site is built on. For this, we can use a tool like FUF, which lets us uncover a website's hidden pages and directories by rapidly testing thousands of common names against it, or another one called Waffleizer, which instantly reveals what a site is actually built on, and even the exact software versions running behind it. Finally, we have physical reconnaissance, which basically means getting physically close to the target, and using specialized hardware to pick up on the wireless signals of devices around them. So for example, a hacker might scan the Wi-Fi networks in range to map out what's broadcasting, pick up nearby Bluetooth devices and what they're leaking, or use special SDR hardware to monitor things like walkie-talkies in the area. Anyway guys, so that's it for the video. Before ending, I'd like to mention that while we didn't cover a bunch of things, like how the hidden metadata inside someone's photos and documents can quietly give them away, or how something as simple as physically going through a company's trash can hand a hacker everything they need, I'd highly recommend exploring them on your own, since they're also some of the most interesting techniques out there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section down below, and I'll see you in the next one.